Hey guys, so I'm going to show you how I kind of go about this process. So I'm going to use this smaller wood panel because it's much lighter and much more accessible. The way I set my wood panels up is fairly simple. I'll go to an art store, obviously, buy a wood panel. Some of them are already pre-gessoed, and that's fine to work with. I've purchased those before and they turn out fine. However, I've noticed that when you get a board or a wood panel that's pre-gessoed, for whatever reason, the oil or the oil paint tends to sink into the canvas. And you'll go on some forums and you'll see artists talking about keywords like, I had to oil out. Oiling out is essentially a term used when you need to bring back up the luster of a painting. You'll see like blotches of, it almost looks dead or matte finished. Some areas have like a kind of glossy look. That's just some of the oil pigment seeping into the wood panel, and other areas not. Why it happens, I don't know, but I've noticed that when you use pre-gessoed wood panels, they tend to do that more often than wood panels that, say, you or I would gesso ourselves. Just a little note there. But how I would approach this is pretty straightforward. Buy the wood panel and then purchase, I use Liquitex gesso, and put it on there, and then I would apply it with these foam brushes. These are really cheap, $1 or something. Apply it to the canvas, you know, try to get it as smooth as possible, you know, and you'll do multiple layers, upwards of 4. I like to do 4, maybe 5. But the point is you want to make it as smooth as possible. Once you finish that, you want to sand it down, whatever grit you want. Honestly, when you get into really fine grit right off the bat, I feel like the gesso just adheres to it. You're never getting anywhere. I'm not even sure what the gauges are offhand, but when it's a heavier grit, you can really start to eliminate all those markings and kind of bumps on the canvas. We're trying to achieve a really smooth, soft finish on these guys, so just go to town on it, you know. But also be aware that the more you sand, the thinner the gesso is going to get. And that's why you want to apply a few layers of gesso just to make sure you have enough on there before it all disappears. But that covers that. So you got your wood panel, it's gessoed, it's smooth. And that will get you to this. Once you're at this point, you got your gesso all set up and it's nice and smooth. I start the transfer process with a pencil or a ballpoint pen, and how I do that is fairly simple. I'll use, say, photos. So for instance, we got this here. It's a photographic composition of some dogs. I'll take photos, whether it's I'm working with a client and they say, I want a painting of my dog. Like, okay, that's great. They'll send me a photograph of the animal, pet, whatever it is. Bring it into Photoshop and I'll adjust some lighting and stuff. And that's not important for you guys if you don't utilize that software. But the point is, I'll manipulate it the way I want to, and then from there I'll have an image that I could send over to, let's say, Kinko's. And that's what I did here. I got a big printout from Kinko's. Mind you, two printouts. One, the first printout is so I can register the drawing. So essentially what that means is I have this big print right here, and I'll take graphite paper, Sally's wax free, and I'll put it underneath the photo here, and this on top, and then I'll draw on top of this paper. So essentially it leaves marks on the wood panel canvas. The important thing is with that step, try to get every frickin' detail that you could possibly find. Because there's nothing worse than you're going through a painting at the last steps and you don't know where all that detail is. You'll lose it. The more paint you apply, the less you start to see as you build up this this behemoth here. So my advice is honestly don't skimp on this first step. You think it's, I'll get to it later. You won't. You want to start doing the hard work from the get-go and you'll hold yourself accountable throughout the whole painting. That's, you know, and what's the point of skimping, in all honesty? We're painting because we love to do it. There's no shortcuts, you know, you're only going to hurt yourself. So just do the work, you know, and you'll see the benefits later on. But as far as once you finish the transfer drawing, you're going to have this image here, and note there's another step before you want to jump right into painting. Because if you start painting, you're going to lose this image. So what I like to use after I do the transfer drawing is I use this workable fixative. And I like to use a very low odor. It's got kind of a funky stench, but the low odor really minimizes that. So what I'll do is I'll kind of spray it on there, do maybe 2 or 3 coats. And what that does is that it's almost as like it seals the drawing that you have on the canvas and allows you to apply paint, whatever, on top of it. I can keep smudging and smudging and smudging and smudging. Nothing's coming off of my hands. So that's good. You want that because you don't want to be painting a couple layers and, you know, a week in you're like, where the hell are all the damn lines? That sucks. So apply the spray fix. And once you got that, you're pretty much ready to go. Remember I said 2 printouts. So the first printout you used was to kind of mark up, you know, find all your lines so you get this nice kind of relief, whatever you want to call it. I personally like to have a clean sheet of paper. So once I have that drawing, I don't want to use it anymore because there's all these weird marks all over it, right? And if you're using a pen, it's all this like just kind of weird lines that are just distorting your view. You want to have such a very clean image to work with, right? Because it's hard enough to match color as it is. So the point is I like to use 2. So once I finish a relief drawing, I'll honestly toss out that first printout. And then this is my second printout. I'm going to put it right beside the work area that I'm going to start with. The reason why I do that is I have a good way of identifying what value I need to make this underpainting, if you will. And that's essentially the whole concept and idea of an underpainting. I'm not working to mix any colors. I'm going to utilize one color, and that's probably going to be a raw umber or a burnt umber, whatever you want to choose. It's a nice earthy brown. A raw umber is a little bit more yellow in hue, and a burnt umber is it's brown, it's darker. But it's honestly up to you. As you can see, some of these dogs here, they have this nice kind of yellowy, ochre, dark brown, nutty look. So it doesn't really matter with that color. You know, and if you have questions, obviously you guys comment, ask questions, whatever you need to do, and I'll be happy to answer any of those as they come along. So I'll just utilize one color, right? And I'll start to establish the value. So essentially what I mean by that is that you got this ear here, and it's pretty dark, right? Compared to this cheekbone right here. So what I'll do is I'll apply some paint and I'll build it up. Not exactly, but as close as I can to that value with the color that I'm, there you go, burnt umber, with the color that I'm using. So I'm going to show you how to do that in the next video. But essentially that's the gist of getting this first layer in. Slowly building it up so you have the form, which at this point, it's 2D, but we want to try to get a likeness. We really want to try to build up this form to get it looking as close to this as possible. And guys, there's a million ways to do this. There isn't a one and all route to doing a painting. You know, you have multiple methods, multiple techniques. There isn't one right way, I'm telling you. I've looked at a multitude of tutorials online. I've followed I don't know how many artists, and you take what you like and you leave out what you feel is unnecessary. There is no one right way. The point of this all in the end, and for me, it's trying to achieve a desired look that looks like a photo, I would say, is trying to get this image right here to look like this. So how do I do that? I'll start with value and I'll slowly build it up, and you're going to see that process. So the point is just make it look as close to this as possible. And there's, like I said, a number of ways, but we'll get to that. But I hope you enjoyed the video. Guys, let's get started, okay?